So at Redgate, we released Test Data Manager last year, which is kind of a 2.0 version of this entire process, where we were trying to find ways to not only meet the needs of our customers, but do it in a simple way. So we've had some products that do this for a while. There are other vendors that do this stuff, but it's been really heavyweight. And so a lot of software shops have avoided actually doing this. And certainly in the US, I think we've ignored the PII data classification sensitivity thing very well. But even overseas, we've got customers that have struggled with that, even though they know it's important. So what we've tried to do is look at this from the perspective of both the developer, the dev test people that need to get data, and then the data operations people that could be DBAs, could be sysadmins, but they are responsible for somehow getting us data in some way. And so at a high level, what you really want to do is you want to understand where I have sensitive data. At least I hope you do. Certainly, if you're regulated, you should do that because you don't want to mask all data. We don't want to change all data because it just takes too many resources, right? And ultimately, we're trying to save time here. That's right. Jeffrey's whole point, what he helps you do is save time by being agile and get things done sooner. So we want to classify that data. And then what we want to do is somehow kind of mask and hide that data in a way that keeps it safe. But we want to keep a similar skew and distribution of data so that it looks like something in production. So we're still solving the same problems we would want to solve. So in the fair example, we know we have prizes. We have to have rules about how you win a prize. We have to have a way to enter. We have to have a way to, decide who wins them. There's all these things we need to solve, and we need that set of data in a safe way. And then to optimize that, this part of this optimize is really about subsetting and saying, let's only take a representative set of data and use that to do all of our dev test work. Okay. Now, we still may need a full-size copy for performance load testing, but honestly, I've been doing this 30 years. Almost nobody does full-size load testing. And if they do, they do it very rarely. Mm-hmm. So honestly, the best thing I've seen for agility is get a good represent subset of data and use it for developers, use it for CI, use it in QA. So that way we have the same data set and we can reproduce problems, right? So when QA finds a problem, developers can reproduce it and we understand what's going on. Mm-hmm. If we happen to have a bug that we can't reproduce from production, then what we should do is bring down another very small slice of data that represents that problem or that bug. And from there we go. The other thing we've done a lot, so Jeffrey, you're a .NET developer, right? You're a C# MVP, is that right?
Yes.
Or ASP, right? Like you do that stuff. So imagine if I told you that we're going to work on this application together, okay? And we're going to take these text files with C# in them, and we're going to stick them on Google Drive, and you and I are going to edit them together at the same time. Would you like that?
Not unless we were on a Zoom call together.
We'd be hopefully then still only one of us is typing, right? Like we're pair programming both.
Typing. We can't edit the same line at the same time.
Right. Or even potentially, different parts of the same method, right? Or you don't want me changing properties when you're editing a method that might look at those. Right.
Merge conflict.
But it wouldn't be a merge conflict, right? Because we'd be compiling code and we may or may not get a compilation error, or we may or may not get a problem, right? And to me, when I talk to developers about doing this, they all think that would be insane. Like we would never co-program on the same file. But in databases, we do that all the time.
Yeah.
And I see some customers, especially those that don't have great communication habits. Person A is changing a table and a view and a stored procedure. Person B is editing that stored procedure for a different reason. And they waste time because they keep changing logic. One of them's like, well, it's not working. And they hit compile again. And then the first person is like, well, now you broke mine. So they hit compile. And they just go back and forth because they don't realize. So we've always tried to get people to do dedicated databases for each developer, right? But looking the same and the same in CI. We've moved to an area of doing cloning, which is really a separate copy of database without all the resources involved. And essentially, you can think of it, well, we actually do with containers, but you can think of it as we create a read-only image of the database, and then we give a read write copy as a container to each developer. So they all can work independently, but we've only really got one copy of that database, right? And potentially that same copy, read-only copy, is used for CI, it's used for QA, and everywhere else, which really helps us with resource usage. It helps us with agility because we only produce one of these things and then deploy it out to many people. And it helps us with consistency because now if I have a problem, I can approach you and say, hey, I've got this problem. Here's what's happening. On your copy of the database, you can reproduce that. And then we can decide, how do we solve a problem? What code do we want to write, or what changes do we need to make? And there's a lot more to all doing this, but at the high level, being able to take a subset of data out of production, make it safe, and then deploy it to each developer independently is a tremendous boon for agility.
And without this, also practices like feature branches just are not feasible when you still have a global dependency, like a certain test set of data that somebody's just manually procuring or
absolutely right. Like right. What if I want to link the column in a feature branch? If I do that on the same database you're using, I might mess up how your application works.
Yeah, if we're sharing that database. But if I'm in a branch, I need a branch is a completely segment of isolation.
Yes.
And if I'm using a shared team database server, and I have to go to that database server to do my column extension, well, that doesn't work because now I'm instantly breaking somebody else. I need to be able to, on the branch, run my private build and have it spin up the application and my local database with the particular subset of data for a development level database, and go to town locally, not messing with anybody else. And once I'm satisfied that, okay, I extended that column, the code that relies on that table and column, that code is happy. Now I'm submitting a pull request back to my team. I'm submitting a pull request with the application change and the database schema change together.
Yes. And Jeffrey, you've been doing this a long time like I have. Maybe more often than not, what I really want to do is be able to throw that branch away because I messed stuff up and start over, right? And I should be able to throw a database away and restart over because, I've made 12 changes. I lengthened 3 columns. I changed the views. I'm like, you know what? That was a bad idea. Let's try something else. Right. And doing that on a database that you care about and undoing all that work is really hard. It's really hard. And it's time consuming.